For the most part, for me, it's all about the team. The area is kind of comes second, because if you have a good solid team, they can make a terrible deal into a diamond.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate sponsors and syndication experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of passive real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 132 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Curtin, co-GP in multifamily syndications. Today, we get the great pleasure of chatting with Scott Kidd. Scott is a multifamily syndicator with an awesome backstory in the maritime industry, working for over 25 years doing new builds, project management, and a few other activities on yachts, which is pretty freaking crazy, man. Like, this is awesome. Super excited to, kind of jump into his story today and have some fun, Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Kyle, for having me on. Always love meeting new people and getting a chance to talk about multifamily real estate and my background. I love talking about boats and real estate, especially apartments, commercial real estate. I can keep going on either one, and a lot of times I do.
Perfect, man. We're in a good spot, good location. Yeah. But yeah, so take us kind of through, like, I love your brand, by the way, man. And for the, audio, obviously we just started, so, the audience doesn't really know the story yet, but yeah, I'm excited, to kind of jump into your story and how you, first got into like the maritime industry and how eventually, going through the years, eventually that led into real estate and kind of what your focus is now. The floor is yours, man.
Okay, cool. I kind of just fell into the yachting industry. I was in the tech industry, and I got laid off. It was 99-2000.com bust, and we had lost our tech business that we had. We were buying and selling hardware, and plus we were building small POS systems for small business, but that all kind of went by the wayside. We got hit with some credit card fraud and some other stuff that we ended up having to shut it down. But I was back in Jamaica. I'm originally from Jamaica. My dad's Jamaican, my mom's American. So I was back there, and I decided to stay there because didn't really have much going on up there. And I started working with a friend of mine, and I was down there for a bit, and things weren't really working out. But he had a friend of a friend that was in the Navy with, and asked me if I wanted to work on a boat in Fort Lauderdale for the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. And I told him, I said, I don't really know anything about working on boats or anything. He said, that's fine, but as long as you show up and work, it's fine. And I said, okay. Okay. Sounds all right to me. And I'd planned to go back and start a charter business down there in Jamaica, but I borrowed the money for the ticket, and I borrowed some cash in my pocket, and I landed with about $20 in my pocket in Fort Lauderdale. Didn't know anybody, but I never looked back. That was 2000. Ended up aligning myself with some great people that are mentors for me, helped me out a lot in the yachting business, and taught me the ropes and everything else. And I never moved back, but I've been back many times. But I ended up having a passion for yachts and boats. I really love it. And fast forward many years after I've married and have had kids, as our family was getting bigger, we did the same thing like a lot of people. We bought another house, rented the other one, and started that way. And then we, as the family got bigger, we moved again and that kind of stuff, and we kept going that way. But eventually one day, a friend of a friend and I were at the beach, and we're hanging out, and he had told me the story that he had bought and sold this 46 unit apartment building in Houston, in the Houston area, and made a really large amount of money in just 2 years. And I said, well, you can do that. And he said, yeah, you can do that. I did it. So, I mean, anybody can do it. Then that kind of sparked my interest. And then I started learning a lot about it, and then started going to meetups and going to, networking and reading a lot. And thank God for YouTube University,
Yep.
Biggerpockets, and, things, podcasts like Tim Bratz and, the Apartment Gurus and everything else. And eventually I got involved in a syndication and kept joining masterminds. And I started my own meetup because at the beginning, when I started going to meetups, a lot of them, they would funnel you to the back of the room and try to sell you something, phone call, a book, a this, a course, of that.
The weekend.
I got the first 10 I went to, I got pretty frustrated because I just kind of wanted to be around people that were doing it. And so I said, well, let me just go to one more. And then I ended up going to one, which is one of my partners now. And she's a great person. I always, I've talked to her all the time. And we've done a couple of deals together, and I know we're going to do a lot more in the future. We ended up partnering up, and she and I work great together. And just kept kind of building from there, joined masterminds. And I saw that the people that grew, they put themselves around people that were growing more and more. So I just kept, it seemed like a lot at the time, but joining these masterminds, it kind of just puts you in the room, and going to these meetups, it puts you around all the people. And our meetup group, I ended up collaborating with a couple other groups who were having it at the same time. And a lot of people were always kind of leery about collaborating with other people, thinking that it's going to dissolve what they're doing. But I think for me, it only makes everything bigger, because our meetups gotten a lot bigger in Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, and now we're doing Stewart. And the guys I partnered with, they're doing Orlando, Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, Aspen, Phoenix. I think they're going all over. So it only gets bigger the more people you bring together.
Wow, that's wild, man. Holy crap. Yeah, no, 100%. And there's a good amount that I want to unpack in there, but yeah, no, I think it's extremely cool. Kind of how you first got introduced, to like the yacht industry and that type of thing. And eventually, how it took pretty much like one conversation, with a buddy to really like set the spark to like kind of pivot in a whole different direction. And I definitely hear you, man, when it comes to like the events and stuff like that, aren't exactly what you're looking for, because there's kind of a sales pitch in the back. Like, that's like the biggest turn off in the world for me, man. Like you just want to get in the same room as other people. Like, everybody's just trying to help each other. No pun intended, a rising tide lifts all boats, you know what I mean? But, and that's not exactly the case all the time, but, but that's the beauty of it, man, is, like I've hosted some events in the past myself. And, that's the thing, is like, if it's not there, like, you can create it, you know what I mean? If it doesn't exist already. And that's the beauty of it, especially, when it comes to collaborating with other groups around the area and that kind of thing. Like, because the vast majority of people, would rather collaborate than compete, and
And the thing is, with the meetup, we've been doing it over 2 years now, and collaborating for over a year now, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the good thing about it was a few months ago, we had a lot of people coming up to us in Fort Lauderdale saying, hey, we really love coming here. No one's ever trying to sell us something. Everyone's just kind of out here to meet new people and kind of hang out and talk about this. And it's a great venue. And, it made me feel good, because that's what I was always looking for. And that's what I knew I was lacking. And I know that all the deals, or all of the, better things in my life come from networking and come from meeting other people. And, all it takes is that one conversation or one one thing. There's that great book by Ed Milet, The Power of One More, one more phone call, one more text, one more conversation, meet one more person, network at one more event. So just do one more, and if you keep that kind of mentality, that's a lot of times that's all it takes, because you never know what's around the corner if you don't try.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it's funny you say that, because I was listening to an Ed Milet podcast at the gym about 2 hours ago. And he was talking about that. He's like, just one more rep. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, never again. Damn it, Ed. Like, come on.
That was the last one.
But yeah, man, no, I totally agree with you. And I do want to jump back a sec too about tell us a little bit about like how you got involved with that first syndication. Like, did you happen to, like, were you a GP on that one, an LP? Like, did you happen to...
The first couple of syndications I did because actually I ended up joining his Tate Seymour, his Octane multifamily mastermind, because he was the guy that it's now 2.5+ years ago when I first invested in their deal, and another one after that, not in theirs, but in another one. But because I was looking to be a GP or co-GP and running the deal, and I was still working full time. And he said to me, and I'd probably talked to about 12, 15 different syndicators, and they were all immediately, most of them would go into the deal and start talking numbers and everything. He kind of more asked me like, well, what is it that you want? What are you looking for? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? I said I wanted to be a GP. He said, well, nothing, I will really want you to invest in my deal, but if you don't, that's fine. But just keep in mind that being a GP, that's a lot of work. You got to come to the meetings. You got to, go through a lot of the numbers and everything else, and, keep investor relations. So it can end up being a full-time job, because that's what I'm doing. So maybe you want to be an LP first and walk through the deals and get more comfortable with it, so you understand what it is. And, and I looked at a couple more deals, and I was like, well, no, I'll go with him, because that was that was definitely what I needed to hear, because it was somebody that was kind of actually looking out for my best interest.
Yeah, and I really like that you said that, man, because I think that in itself is a huge takeaway for probably dominantly for LPs that are looking to invest in a syndication or a fund or something for the first time. Like, don't just, put in capital with the first person that you come across that's doing these kind of deals. Like, guys, do like Scott did, talk to a whole bunch of syndicators, like, get to know these guys and gals, ask the proper questions, like basically get in alignment with what it is, your expectations are, like maybe what like states, what markets, you are kind of bullish in from a passive standpoint. Like, don't just, throw 50, 100, 250K at something and not know what the hell you're getting into.
And that goes with everything. And, it's all about the person that you trust. And I trusted him, and I still do. He's, I knew that by him asking those questions that, and I know the risks. I've lost money doing other things and stuff, but I know that he's going to go to the mat. And that in itself was the most important thing. Like, if I lose, I lose, and they had their own money in there too, which was important to me. But, if I lose the money, I lose the money, but I know that he's going to do all he could to prevent that. And, people always think in worst case scenario, but I recently heard somebody say, well, what's the best case scenario? Why don't you think of that instead? And then, because then you're going to, if you think of all the worst things that are going to happen, you're probably going to talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
But if you think of all the good things that could come of it, and that it's a risk. I mean, it's like anything else then, hey, what about thinking about the upside? Because the upside could be infinitely better, and both could happen. So, if you focus on that negative side, you're not going to end up, you might not even get out of bed.
Yeah. The world is a dangerous place, man. Like,
Yeah.
don't go outside.
Yeah,
Grow your own
go
food.
outside.
Like,
You're going to get COVID. You're going to get hit by a bus, hit by lightning, eaten by a shark.
yeah.
Anyone that can hit all four of those, that's somebody
That's
I don't
impressive.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gotta buy a lottery ticket first.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, I couldn't agree more, and that is definitely a big takeaway. For I mean both, for LPs looking to get in and, GPs, co-GPs looking to get their feet wet in the space as well. Is like basically, just having that optimistic viewpoint, but also, having the negative, the pros and cons, you know what I mean? Like just basically like knowing what you're getting into and that kind of thing. And it's everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like do your due diligence and that kind of thing. And
it really comes down to what your goal is with that. A good friend of mine that was in financial services for a long time, he told me, he said, look, always have a time and a purpose with money. Like if this is your vacation money and you're going to go to vacation next year, okay, it's going to be that. If it's your retirement money, that's 30-year money or 20-year, whatever, how long you have before that. If this is your investing money, what you want to do with it, you want it to be held for 2 years, 1 year, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, and just put it there and leave it there. And then when that turns over, you put it in something else that's for that purpose. And then, life changes, your overall strategy is going to change over time. We all have different needs, kids, college, things like that. Things come up, you always want to have your emergency funds and all that stuff, but you don't want to, keep jumping around. You have to stay consistent because, consistency beats intensity. As long as you stay in the game, you're going to be fine.
Yep. I love it, man. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's really important too. And I mean, another point to make is, while folks are kind of figuring out, what their, I guess like buy box is in a sense, from the passive angle is exactly like you said, like as time goes on, you're going to read more books, you're going to have more conversations, you're going to meet more people, like your, thoughts are going to kind of change and pivot, as you progress and that kind of thing with, what types of projects you're bullish on, what types of operators you're bullish on, which ones you're maybe not so much. But another thing to keep in mind is these types of investments for the most part could be like 4 to 10 year projects, so it's like, it's one of those things that like you absolutely, want to jump around and, taste a bunch of different things and that kind of thing. But also keep in mind that like, it's not like you're tying up capital for 12 months, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you still have to be, pretty intentional with the decisions that you make. And definitely, make sure it's not your last 50,000 that you're throwing into a deal.
And that's depending on your risk tolerance, some people are more than others. I myself have gone, from the heavy value add stuff to now and just this environment, that kind of the light value add properties, trying to get more into the C plus B class because they're a little more stable, but those things change, once things open back up again and, wherever the rates fall or whenever prices get to a, when the rates moderate and everything kind of levels off, there'll be a lot of opportunity and that could change, as to what my tolerance is. Now recently I just signed on with a new storage project. So, that's a new deal for me. So I'm looking at that now and because the returns are looking really good and, it's backed by a large corporate entity. So, give it a shot. I'm always willing to make myself uncomfortable. I have a habit of doing that.
Hey, man,
Sometimes I make other people uncomfortable as well.
Hey, I mean, one of the other things that Ed Milet was saying on the episode earlier was, if you're not growing, you're dying. So, like,
yeah. Well, hopefully this doesn't kill me.
Hopefully not. Yeah, knock on wood here.
Yeah.
Oh man. What are kind of some tips for both GPs and LPs for like picking markets? Like, how do you guys kind of go? Well, I guess I should ask first, like, what are some of the markets that you guys are very bullish in? And like, what was kind of your process for finding those markets and like different aspects that you kind of studied and that kind of thing to make that determination?
Well, for the most part, for me, because I've over the last year, I've focused mostly on raising funds, and I've been getting in with teams as a co-GP. So for the most part, for me, it's all about the team. The area is kind of comes second, because if you have a good solid team, they can make a terrible deal into a diamond. And it's the same thing on the boats that I've done for the last 20 plus years. That it's all about the team. You could have the worst boat in the fleet, but if you got the best team, I'll take that any day. Because without a good team, the apartment's not going anywhere. The commercial real estate's not going anywhere. Without that, the boat's not going anywhere. If you have a good, solid team, you can get through just about anything.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think that's huge. And especially, I mean, even in the inverse, like if there's a deal that looks absolutely phenomenal, on the pitch deck and the team isn't that good, the complete opposite effect can happen as well.
Yeah, they can tear that one up as well.
Yeah.
Boat too. It can be a disaster. And it's a reality check, when people are making these capital calls and everything, they're starting to come, and for a long time, I guess the last 10 plus years, people have been riding the good times for, not to say that no one had any struggles, but things were kind of a rinse and repeat for a while, and it just kept going. And you see a lot of people pivoting and changing, and now is the time of the great operators. The people who are the great operators are going to get through all of this and just keep going. And that's what I take a hard look at is the people that are solid operators that have been through some things in their life that will overcome. That's the thing that's the most important to me. I generally look also, in areas that are a little bit, secondary or primary areas, MSA of at least 100,000 or more people, high growth, low crime, growing job market, corporate headquarters moving there, that kind of stuff. When you see stuff like that, larger companies moving in, then you're going to have a good, stable workforce. You don't want it to be based on one employer or one industry in general. Like, I know Detroit gets a bad rap a lot of times, but it was all auto based, and now they have different stuff going on, and hopefully they're moving in the right direction. But if it was just one industry, even if it's millions of people in the city, it can happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And somebody told me a while back, man, I forget what the phrase is, but it was basically like a nickname for a market where, one of the drivers is basically the, staple for the entire city.
Yeah.
And it was something along the lines of like I don't know if it was like a one trick pony market or it was something having to do with a pony or something like.
Okay.
I forget the name of it, man, but
I've heard something similar to that. I
always butcher it.
Pony. It was something, but it was something real catchy.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll remember it. Because you kind of want to stay out of those. You want to look in a very diverse employment market. I like I've liked Texas, Florida. I've since stopped looking for a while because it's one, the insurance and taxes have started to go up. And then I was looking in Houston for a while, and Houston, the insurance has done a big number on a lot of the deals because you don't know where you're going to be, and then taxes are also an issue. I know that they don't have Texas doesn't have any state income tax, but the property taxes are starting to creep up a little bit, and if they get reassessed right to the wrong number before you buy, then that can
Ouch.
be a deal killer. So. But fortunately, that's not that's not everywhere in Texas. It's every area is different. Real estate's always local, so there's people still doing deals in Florida, still people doing deals in Texas, all over. It's I haven't found them, so they're probably better at finding them than I am.
I hear you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's funny you say that about the insurance as well, especially down in Florida, because one of my partners, he used to do a good amount of flips down there, and things are pretty much on a standstill with that because of like how crazy the rates went. And I even asked him a while back, I'm like, oh, would you look for bigger apartment assets down there? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
yeah, it's they're building a lot of Class A stuff because I don't think the B and C new stuff has been priced out for a while, just cost of construction rates and everything else. So it's really kind of a tough deal for that. I mean, we have this 13 unit up by Daytona, and they renewed our insurance, but they didn't. They said they weren't going to renew our wind and storm. So
yeah,
and that's kind of like the only thing we need.
Yeah, exactly, right.
But we ended up getting with Citizens, which is the state of Florida, which is government insurance. So because a lot of the carriers have moved out of Florida just for whatever reasons, cost of construct. We did get hit with a couple of storms, and some of the guys went under, and it's not pretty. And if you have less options, that's what happens.
Yeah, no, 100%. You can only do what you can do.
Yeah. And those are two things that you really have to take a hard look at, is taxes and insurance, because those are things that you can't get another tax quote. You can't really you can get another insurance quote, but most of the time they're all going to be kind of fairly similar. And if with a lack of competition, there probably won't be that much different.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just two things that you really need to take a look at. I like North Carolina. That's a good solid place, especially the Charlotte area. It's a good place, for you got Bank of America there. You got Wells Fargo. It's a growing city, and it's going to be there for quite some time. It's a great place to live. It's a good, stable place, and that's sometimes you just have to ask the common sense questions, like, would I live there? Or hey, would I have my wife go and pick up the rent there? No. Well, probably shouldn't invest there.
Never mind. Yeah.
My wife can walk around freely and pick up the rent there. Not that she would do that or we would do that, but if it's just something that to think about, there's a safety issue. Those are good, crime-free area. Is there people hanging out in the middle of the daytime? Probably not a good idea.
Yep.
The due diligence is there, and there's where if you have a good team, they're going to have that down. They're going to be established in that market. They're going to know the areas. They're going to know the property managers. They're going to know all the subcontractors, the general contractors. They're going to know it from soup to nuts. They're going to probably just be able to look at it and go, no, that's not a good one. We looked at that one 6 months ago. It didn't work at that price, or it work at this price either. So there's where the value of building a great team is what's the most important.
Mm-hmm. I love that, man. Absolutely. And I mean, even I do want to make a point too about like making sure that your property manager is basically like very versed in the type of like ABCD project that you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So not having like, a PM that's used to, a like luxury type of
Yeah.
stuff, trying to, stabilize a D asset to
Yeah.
C, it's kind of a different ball game there.
Yeah. It's you got to make sure that everybody you're bringing in has the aligned interests, have the same alignment of interest, and there's where the communication comes in. Like if everyone, you need to have, proper structured meetings, especially when you're building or doing a heavy value add updates, let everybody know, especially the team knows, so that everyone can keep moving in the same direction.
Yep. Yeah, no, 100%. How do you typically send out like monthly updates to the LPs or quarterly, or what's kind of your
It's generally quarterly, unless there's a
Mhm.
lot more stuff going on. If there's a value add stuff, then it's going to be a monthly
Yep.
deal, and I'm open, if they have questions to then call me and talk to me about it. It's fine. Or if I don't know, I'll find out, because I'm not involved a lot on the day to day unless they want me to be, if I need to help out or, with whatever needs to get help, get pushed through. But other than that, I try to keep in communication with them as much as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense, man. 100%. Yeah. So take us through. I wanted to bring up your brand, man, because I absolutely love it. Especially like looking at your website, like everything just ties together so nicely from like, the maritime stuff to the investment stuff. Like everything's just like in alignment, and it's like it's really nice to look at. Yeah, how has that kind of gone, I guess, in terms of like, because I mean, like we hear often, especially from like mentors and from books and stuff like that, to kind of like pick a niche to focus on that you like relate to and that kind of thing. Obviously that was a very good one for you, with like the past that you've had, in that
Yeah.
industry and that kind of thing.
Well, it kind of just evolved into that because I originally, focused on, well, there's a lot of people I've worked with, and they they don't have any living expenses. They just live on the boat, and all they might have is like a cell phone bill, or or a bar tab, or whatever they waste their money on, or and I myself had money sitting down and set aside because I didn't have time to spend it, because one, I was busy working all the time, and I just thought, well, let me just see if I can put these two together, especially people that are captains, engineers, and other vendors and stuff that have businesses that are yacht related, and it's kind of involved into other things, other entrepreneurs and people that really want the yachty lifestyle. That's what it's kind of evolved. That's where it started, was with the crew, but the focus has since expanded because everyone wants to have that kind of freedom of going where they want, and boat is, for me, it's one of the freest things. For me, I'll never stop investing in real estate, and two, I'll get off the boats. I'll just do both of them until they tell me I can't, because, I love doing both. So, and it gives both of them, give me the opportunity to meet a lot of interesting people that are doing a lot of very positive things, that are, or have done, I've been lucky enough to work for some really high net worth billionaires that will basically kind of just tell you exactly what they did to make all the money they did, and how they did, and how they live, and I think everyone wants that level of freedom, and that what I call is kind of that yachty lifestyle, where you're just kind of able to go and do all those things.
I love that, man. I was actually I was curious because I saw in your site there that like you were have sailed a decent amount like around the world, in a lot of really really cool places, and I was curious like how much interaction that you have had in the past, with some of the folks that like own the yachts and that kind of thing, and like how often you like rub elbows, I guess, if you
Well,
will.
for me, I usually have direct contact with the primary, whether it be the charter guest or with the owner of the
Mhm.
vessel, because I'm usually the one that's making the call or managing the vessel for them. Project management, start to finish, all logistics, hiring and firing the crew. Um, you know, managing all the new refits and stuff that they want to do. um you know Sometimes they come up with some interesting ideas that you have to make happen.
I can imagine. Is there
Yeah.
not to interrupt you, but is there any interesting stories that you're able to share?
Well, um
Just out of like selfish
none.
curiosity.
Let me see, one that won't get me into trouble or anything. But I did finish a new build in China. That was interesting in that it was a very unique experience. It's probably one of the best and worst experiences I've had working on a boat, because one, with the language barrier, different cultural differences and stuff, and you could have 70 to 80 people on the boat at one time, and one guy doesn't know what the other guy's doing. One guy finishes something, the other guy rips it apart, and they're both checking off a list.
Oh
It
boy.
was yeah, yeah, and it just kept going, and then we ended up getting it out of there, because we weren't going to be able to finish it there, and then it was brought it back to the States and finished it up. But it was a unique experience, because I kind of came in as the fixer, because a lot of things had gone in the wrong direction, and ended up finishing off everything that I said I was going to do, and then took almost a year to get it back to Fort Lauderdale and back up and running. But it was everything in China was a fight or a battle, just from the littlest thing all the way down, and they threw everything at us. I mean, every little trick in the book that you could think of was done. I mean, you know, they were tough. I mean, hats off to people that do business there. I would imagine it can be the best or the worst experience, but that was the one of the most interesting things.
Wow. That's wild, man. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
but
Definitely
we weren't in a nice part of China in the shipyard. We weren't.
oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't living that glamorous lifestyle that people think we do. We were getting pretty dirty.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy, man. That's such a cool. I've never really met anybody that's been in that type of occupation before, you know what I mean? So it's like it's just super cool like hearing about that kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's not that's why I've expanded my reach, because there's not it's probably, I want to say, maybe too niche, because there's probably 50 to 100,000 yacht crew working at one time in the world, and then you want to say at least half of them are foreign nationals, so that becomes a little more difficult for investing, and then smaller percentage are captains and engineers that can qualify as possibly being accredited. So, I've expanded also to the rest of the maritime, which is much larger as well. And, maritime entrepreneurs and just other people that are curious and wanting to know more about it, because it is definitely a conversation starter.
Absolutely. And I think like that's so incredibly valuable, man. And for everybody that's listening to this, like just take that into account, because I was actually looking at some of the analytics in the recent past of like the demographic that
Yeah.
listens to the podcast, like kind of the 80-20. And the majority is, folks that are over like 30 years old. So from
Yeah.
like 30 to like 60 or something like
Yeah.
that. So for, those of you guys that are out there, like, that maybe have never really, gotten into real estate, like always thought it was really cool, but, like Scott was, working your tail off day in and day out, just like building the bank account. This investing passively is absolutely something that, can change things for you. You know what I mean? And maybe not necessarily have a change to your lifestyle. Like, you don't have to go out and like read a bunch of like economics textbooks and stuff. Like, you don't have to be the landlord that's like, tenants, toilets, and trash. Like, that doesn't have to be you either. It's really neat, and there's
the thing that got me involved more into the real estate as well is that the thing is working on the yachts in general is a very volatile industry. So you can be here today, gone tomorrow. You can go from hero to zero all in one day, and
wow,
the job will be gone. And what next? If you got like myself, wife and kids and stuff, you want to have that passive income because I've been in that spot where, well, I just lost that job. I gotta get another one immediately. So you just take whatever's the next one. And a lot of times that's not the best choice for career path or anything else. Could be a not so good experience or a good situation. But if you have some, money coming in, some passive income, you can maybe take a step back and say, well, let me see where I need to be. And it's all been a building process, and I, like my friend told me, keep your real estate pocket in your real estate pocket, your retirement stuff in your retirement, and, don't commingle unless, some people have a bigger risk appetite. They'll put it all in, go all in on everything. But, that's, I like to take the risks in the real estate money, and I still have other streams coming in, other things that have nothing to do with it, so that you have that diversification.
Mm-hmm. Heck yeah, man, absolutely. That's huge. But awesome, Scott. This was absolutely great, man. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun. Yeah.
Where on like social media and stuff can you be found? I know you sent me a bunch of stuff that I'll tag, but if there's any
you can find me on my website is investwithscottkid.com, and on LinkedIn it's Scott Kidd, and the rest of it's Yachtie Real Estate Investors.
Cool. I'll drop all that stuff down below. Guys, definitely reach out to Scott. And yeah, this was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs. Get access to our private investor portal and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.